Arkansas put together a good performance to start the season, handling their business against Alabama A&M 52-7, and it was certainly a good game to build off of going forward. The offense looked pretty much as I expected it to, with a multitude of guys getting opportunities to get involved. In fact, 7 different Razorbacks carried the football, and 10 different Razorbacks recorded at least one reception. Pass protection was very solid today. Taylon Green, despite missing on a few throws, showed improvement in terms of poise in the pocket, making the correct reads and going through his progressions, completing 24 of 31 passes for 322 yards and 6 touchdowns, a new career high for him and second all-time in a single game for a Razorback in history, and did so in about 2.5 quarters of work. Now, obviously, it was against Alabama A&M, but nonetheless, it was a really good performance from him and the offense as a whole. As I said leading into the season, I expect this to be one of the better offensive units in the country, and they showed flashes of that potential today. I would have liked to have gotten to see a little bit more from the rushing attack, but A&M's defense was clearly committed to stopping the run as they played very downhill and blitzed very frequently, more often than not. It was clear they were committed to stopping the run and forcing Taylon Green to beat them through the air, which he was able to do with relative ease. But that said, the Hogs did still rush for roughly 5 yards per carry and 200 yards on the ground. So it's certainly not like the run game was just non-existent. And based on their plan of attack, they were really begging for Bobby Petrino and Taylon Green to try to gash them through the air, which, once again, they were able to do with ease. So overall, I'm very pleased with what we saw in Week 1 from the offense. Defensively, we looked very out of sorts and poor early on. However, they did settle in and looked much stouter as the game progressed. After about the first quarter, A&M struggled to even cross the 50-yard line. And without going back and watching the game, I would accredit most of their struggles early on to simply being out of position and missed assignments, which in Week 1 is to be expected to some extent. But they definitely showed plenty of room for improvement, and I definitely want to see more out of that side of the ball moving forward. In terms of special teams, nothing really stood out, and I mean that in a good way. True freshman kicker Scott Starzik got his first career attempt and make after drilling a 53-yarder, so that was certainly good to see. And they even got some onside kick practice in, as with about 10 seconds left in the first half, they allowed Devin Bell to attempt an onside kick, in which he proceeded to ricochet off an A&M player's shin and catch himself. So that was certainly impressive as well, even though I'm not quite sure that's how they drew it up. But with all that said, in my opinion, it was a very solid team performance overall to build upon in Week 1. Like I said, without going back and rewatching the game, nothing really surprised me in a good or bad way. This team just kind of is what I expected them to be at this point, and I'm excited to continue to watch them progress as they face Arkansas State next weekend in War Memorial. But as always, I'd certainly love to hear y'all's thoughts. What were your takeaways after Arkansas's season-opening 52-7 win over Alabama A&M?